Hello there. I would like to share some ideas I have about having conversations in an environment where people are very fearful. I call this presentation Feelings Before Facts because it's guided by my philosophy that when you're having conversations with people that are emotional, let's say in this environment, very fearful, either because of health situations or financial situations or employment situations, you want to make sure that you don't step over feelings before you start talking about facts. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. One of my role models, Nick Murray, had a phrase that he would say, feelings are to facts as 19 is to 1. The ratio and importance in your conversations, especially when people are emotional, is making sure that you deal with the feelings before the facts, but at this level, that the feelings to the facts is 19 as is to 1. I'm also pretty much grounded in Maslow's theory of human motivation. Abraham Maslow was a psychologist who in 1943 postulated his theory of human motivation, and he built a hierarchy of needs. And at the base of it was physiological needs. His theory postulated that you had to address the lower level needs first before you could address higher level needs and have conversations where people are really thinking at a higher level. Above physiological needs are safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization. Now, my philosophy as a relationship manager is that I'm always thinking Maslow. I'm always trying to see where my client is at, where our relationship is at, and we build that relationship one conversation at a time. Right now, because of a global pandemic and health concerns, people are down here near safety. They're really fearing their safety. They're loading up on toilet paper. They're engaging in social distancing and staying away from other people. They're selling their investments. Some people are buying, but a lot of people are selling and have this urge to sell. So safety is a huge need right now. And as a relationship manager in financial services, I'm speaking also to my colleagues and reminding myself, you have to deal with feelings before facts. Because why? Well, there's some problems if you don't deal with feelings. Number one, you don't want to underestimate emotions. Emotions are very, very powerful, and people will get stuck or dig in to their position. So in other words, if they started the conversation fearful, they only get more fearful as you go, especially if you try to pour facts and focus on facts first. They're going to dig in. It's very hard when you're emotional, and depending on the level of the emotion, to listen to reason. And if you handle a conversation poorly, it's very easy to make things worse, not better, by the way you're handling it. So there's a few principles and skills that I encourage you to think about as you approach your conversations. Number one, active listening. Active listening is an important skill. It's one that most therapists and counselors are very good at doing. It's one that is vital when people come to you and they're emotional. Number two, empathy. Once you've listened to them actively, you could begin to paraphrase, restate, and actively try on and empathize with the situation as it occurs to the other person. Providing validation is an important thing to do. Like, it's one thing for you to say, well, yes, your wealth has declined by 25% over the last couple of weeks, but it's just 25%. I had one client once tell me that he made his money in spoonfuls and he was losing his money in bucketfuls. And I remember invalidating that. Like, I really needed to validate, empathize, and listen actively to the experience. And then before I would go into rational discussion or coming up with a plan, I want to allow them the opportunity to opt into that versus pushing it on them. I want to say, would you like more? They will, of course, say yes, but they'll be in a much better spot if I've already validated, empathized, and listened to them. You want to pay a lot of attention to the pace in your conversations with someone who is anxious and fearful. If they start off and they're talking really fast, you want to slow them down. But if they're going very slow, you want to make sure that you don't rush them out of that slow pace. They will need to stay there until they've processed, until they feel heard and valid. And all of this is stuff that I got from paying attention to and practicing with Maslow's theory on human motivation. I want to switch to a quote here, and that is from Teddy Roosevelt, who said, "They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And in all of the time that I've been successful as a relationship manager, one of my secret weapons, if you will, that isn't very secret of a weapon, but it's something that I really focus on, is making sure that I care. Is making sure that they care. They know how much I care, because they don't care how much I know. Now, it's important to know some things, but it's more important to use active listening skills, empathize, validate, allow them to kind of pull the conversation to them, pay attention to the pace, and make sure that they know you care. So here's the game plan. Number one, deal with feelings first. Number two, I would invite you to use role play. That's not a tool that people often use, but especially in dealing with emotional people, it might not be bad to work with a coach, a mentor, or a colleague. Do some role playing with it. Plan and prepare for your conversations. Don't wing it here. Make sure that you are building rapport and establishing trust. And you do that by active listening, by empathizing, by all the things I've talked about so far. I want to offer a couple of resources. Number one, this show, Conversations About Conversations. It's available on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, as well as in podcast format on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. And then my book, it's called Conversations, How to Manage Your Business Relationships One Conversation at a Time. I created a bit.ly. It's bit.ly/conversations on Amazon. And that'll take you right to Amazon to buy it. Thank you very much for being a part of this conversation about conversations.